They support the nuclear deal, which you support as well.
100% support the nuclear deal.
So you're comfortable negotiating with a country that hates us.
I'm sorry. Who do we negotiate? We only negotiate with countries that love us? Is that how negotiations work? Have you heard of the phrase diplomacy?
But diplomacy,
there is no negotiation with a country that actually agrees with you.
But
we
question,
negotiate with countries that disagree with us.
I totally get it.
Nope. We're not going to move past this until we establish the facts.
I came across this heated debate between Patrick Bet David and Reza Aslan, and it was a public demolition. What PBD thought would be his usual tough guy grilling turned into Aslan tearing apart his arguments on Iran, the nuclear deal, and even capitalism itself. And if you think PBD could spin his way out with sound bites, wait until you see him get fact-checked into silence.
First of all, it's their money that we are releasing in exchange for removing nuclear weapons from Iran. How do you suggest we remove nuclear weapons from Iran, Patrick?
Nia, as we know, Patrick Bet David loves to stage his podcast like a battleground, one conservative voice trying to corner whoever sits across from him. And this time, he thought he had the perfect angle: Iran, nukes, and the nuclear deal. He opens with the kind of line that gets his audience nodding along. You can't negotiate with a country that chants death to America. That sounds tough, right?
And it's stupid to say, which one would you prefer?
It's naive for you to say what you just said. You said since you've left Iran in 79 till today. Adam asked you a question. When's the last time you visited? You said 2005, before I became famous. You didn't use the word famous, but before I became known in a marketplace. Okay.
But Reza Aslan doesn't even blink. He fires back with the obvious. That's literally the point of diplomacy. You don't sit down at the table with your friends. You sit down with the people who hate your guts, because the alternative is war.
The JCPOA, which was negotiated by the United States, Russia, China, the Security Council, and Germany, which is extraordinary. The idea that those 5 countries came together, and the European Union, and agreed on anything.
And here's where it gets brutal for PBD. Aslan points out that the US has been negotiating with North Korea for years, pouring billions in aid into a regime run by Kim Jong-un, a guy who literally starves his own people. If America can cut deals with Pyongyang, how is Iran suddenly too unreasonable? And let's not forget, during the Cold War, the US was cutting arms control agreements with the Soviet Union while both sides were pointing nukes at each other.
Let alone agreed on this absolutely remarkable deal under the Obama administration.
That's where PBD's argument starts collapsing. He's trying to score a soundbite, but Aslan just shoves real history in his face, like proof that diplomacy with enemies isn't weakness, it's survival. You're not gonna believe this.
Iran says death upon Americans, the top of the Iran. This is not even the people in the streets.
Who gives a fuck? So what?
So give $150 billion? That's a valid concern. That's a valid question.
Patrick, Bet David actually tried to sell the idea that America just cut Iran a $150 billion check like it was prize money. Seriously, he framed it like the White House wired cash straight to Tehran.
It's their money that we are releasing in exchange for removing nuclear weapons from Iran. How do you suggest we remove nuclear weapons from Iran, Patrick?
But Aslan wasn't having it. He cut in fast. That money was never America's to give. It was Iran's own frozen assets locked away since the 1979 hostage crisis, and the nuclear deal simply let them access it again in exchange for strict nuclear limits. And here's the kicker. Even that $150 billion number is inflated. Experts pegged the real usable amount closer to $50 billion because much of it was stuck in debts or non-liquid holdings. But hey, politicians loved throwing out big scary numbers, and PBD ran with it.
Because for you, you're saying give $150 billion to those guys, to Iran. It's their money. It's their money anyway. But you're saying it's their money anyways.
No, you're putting words in my mouth.
Begu.
We have 2 options with Iran's nuclear program. 2 options and nothing else.
Aslan's correction lands like a hammer. This wasn't bribery, it was leverage. Iran got back its own money, and the US got a verified nuclear rollback. When you line it up against the alternative, another bloody Middle East war, the $150 billion giveaway spin doesn't just collapse, it looks downright dishonest. And here's where Reza Aslan drops the bombshell that completely wrecks Patrick's narrative. Iran actually did roll back its nuclear program under the deal. Not rumor, not speculation, but hard facts confirmed by the IAEA, the UN's nuclear watchdog.
There is zero doubt that that worked. Zero. The IAEA came out in no uncertain terms and said, within 12 months of that deal being put in place, Iran no longer had the enriched uranium to create a nuclear bomb.
Within just 12 months of the JCPOA, Iran slashed its stockpile of enriched uranium by 98%, ripped out more than 13,000 centrifuges, and capped enrichment levels at 3.67%, far below weapons grade. And inspectors weren't guessing. They were on the ground, around the clock, monitoring every move.
Within 12 months...
You have to be naive to believe that.
Okay.
You have to be,
right.
but fair enough. Let's buy into the naivete and move forward.
Okay,
let's just say you're right. Let's say you're right.
Let's not believe the people on the ground who are actually monitoring the nuclear plants.
To believe somebody.
But instead of acknowledging reality, Patrick does the usual dodge. You have to be naive to believe that. Really, because it wasn't just one report. The IAEA filed 15 consecutive compliance reports confirming Iran stuck to the deal until the US pulled out in 2018. That's not naivety, that's documented history. And hey, if you're enjoying watching PBD get fact-checked into the ground, hit subscribe because this isn't even the knockout punch yet. And sure enough, Patrick tries another escape route.
Same exact thing that happened in different nations. Iran is going through a potential revolution today.
Hold on. I want to make it clear.
He tries to wiggle out with the line about waiting for a revolution. Sounds nice on paper, but Aslan shuts that down too.
Have we been? My answer is we have not been. We have not. 40 years of blanket sanctions has not helped the people of Iran. It has only entrenched the government further, and there's reams of academic data that indicates that.
He points out that the US has already tried that play for over 40 years, hammering Iran with blanket sanctions, hoping the people would rise up. And what happened? The regime only dug in deeper while ordinary Iranians paid the price.
The question is, does the, for instance, nuclear deal, the JCPOA in 2012, would that have helped the government or the people? And there is very good, real, meaningful arguments to be made that it would only help the government. I disagree.
This is where Aslan turns Patrick's whole worldview against him. If you actually want regime change, starving civilians isn't the way. It's about leverage. It's about giving the people inside Iran the economic tools and global connections they need to push back themselves.
Because there are much better arguments that it would only help people. Why? Goes back to your God, capitalism, the free market. The Iranian people live in an oppressive, murderous, theocratic regime.
And here's the fact. Patrick loves to brand himself as a business guy, a deal maker, a capitalist. But Aslan throws his own logic back in his face. The free market is the real weapon. Integration, not isolation, weakens dictatorships. That's capitalism 101, and Patrick missed the lesson. And this is where it gets almost embarrassing for Patrick. The guy who built his whole brand preaching capitalism just got schooled with his own gospel. Aslan lays it out crystal clear. The only way to weaken Iran's regime long-term is by forcing it into the global marketplace.
It's not about the money that you give them.
It doesn't get to the people.
Liberalization.
You cannot be that naive to think the money goes to the people.
I'm not talking about the money going to the people. What I am talking about is the policies that arise from the JCPOA, which requires the liberalization of Iran's economy.
Think about it. Dictatorships thrive in isolation. But once they're tied into trade, banking, and open markets, they can't keep a stranglehold forever. You let students study abroad, you let entrepreneurs trade freely, you let tech flow in. Suddenly, the government can't keep its grip as tightly, and the numbers back him up. After sanctions relief in 2016, Iran's GDP didn't just tick up, it exploded by over 13% in a single year. That wasn't money fattening the pockets of clerics. It was the first real chance for ordinary Iranians to breathe.
What the Iranian people need in order to actually succeed in bringing down their government is access to the free market, is access to the rest of the world.
So while Patrick insists deals strengthen the government, Aslan flips it. Sanctions do that. Engagement cracks the walls, and capitalism isn't a gift to dictators, it's the poison that weakens them.
If you had a choice between how Iran was during Shah's era versus Khomeini, which would you choose?
And then Patrick tries pulling the oldest trick in the book, the forced choice. He corners Aslan with this nonsense question. So which was better for Iran, the Shah or Khomeini? Like picking between two dictators is some kind of intellectual test.
I do not have an idea about Shah's
You don't remember
age.
the thousands of people that he slaughtered on the street, the tens of thousands of people who would disappear into education camps? We replaced one murderous regime with another murderous regime, and it's stupid to say, which one would you prefer?
Aslan doesn't bite for a second. He shoots it down. Both were murderous regimes, both slaughtered their own people, and swapping one tyrant for another isn't progress. But Patrick won't let it go. He keeps shouting, "You can't say neither," over and over, trying to drag Aslan into his false binary.
Fun intellectual exercise in which you are saying, gun to my head, I can only pick the murderous regime of the Shah or the murderous regime of the Ayatollahs.
It's too different.
Which one would you want?
You cannot say.
I would say the murderous regime of the Shah.
Okay.
Here's the reality. History proves Aslan right. Under the Shah, Amnesty International reported thousands tortured and killed by Savak. Under Khomeini, tens of thousands were executed in the name of the revolution. Different faces, same brutality.
You're probably not leaving Iran if Shah was still in Iran or not being in Iran. You probably would, and I would probably,
I'd be probably miserable.
Patrick's whole playbook was on display, twisting Aslan's words into straw men, forcing false choices like Shah or Khomeini, and dodging facts with personal jabs about his family and trips to Iran.
Which is more beneficial to me, or which is better for Iran?
It's by the way, the Shah was more beneficial to the people. You're saying Khomeini is more beneficial to the people.
Fuck no, that's not what I said.
So
Classic deflection when you're losing the argument. And just so no one could twist his words, Aslan closed strong. The Iranian regime is murderous, illegitimate, and belongs in the dustbin of history. He backed the youth rising against it and stressed the only real question is how to empower them, not how to keep punishing them. So tell me, are we scared of the truth or just hooked on the lies? Drop your thoughts in the comments.